People with high functioning anxiety are described as productive, perfectionistic overachievers who are suffering from extreme fear and self-criticism below the surface. When you struggle with high functioning anxiety, this disparity between what you show to others on the outside and this appearance of being calm and high achieving, and the difference between how you feel on the inside and feeling as though you're struggling and feeling anxious and critical of yourself can be challenging. And you might not even realize that anything is wrong because you're continuing to push through these struggles in order to get to that accomplishment on the other end. And you might just see these symptoms as part of who you are. And in this episode, I'm going to share the 7 surprising signs of high functioning anxiety that I've personally experienced, I've noticed in my clients and students, and that you might be struggling with as well, and you might not even realize is a sign of high functioning anxiety. This is episode number 84. Welcome to Calmly Coping. My name is Tati, and I'm a licensed therapist and coach specializing in high-functioning anxiety. I help high achievers overcome high-functioning anxiety so they can finally stop overthinking everything. If this topic interests you, then please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I release a new episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I've personally struggled with all of these signs that I'm about to share, and I'm curious to hear if you've struggled with any of them yourself. You can reach out to me by DMing me on Instagram at TatianaGLPC and let me know, because I'd love to hear from you. Sign number 1 that you might be struggling with that's a surprising sign of high-functioning anxiety is excessive planning. So this is when you're constantly planning for the future, whether it is literally like you're writing down and creating a plan digitally or in your planner, or mentally rehearsing and planning for things. So this can look like writing to-do lists, checking your calendar obsessively and making sure that you're not missing any meetings or you have enough time for things. It can look like making a schedule in advance or planning things out and getting stuck in that place of like excessive planning and paralysis by analysis before actually taking action. So these are all ways to cope with that fear of uncertainty that comes up when you struggle with high functioning anxiety. Planning gives you that sense of a feeling of control because you know what to expect, and it makes it so that it's more tolerable to cope with the uncertainty that might arise. And a lot of times that anxiety comes from a fear of like what could happen or what could go wrong, or what if I don't have enough time and I start to feel stressed and overwhelmed, so I might as well plan in advance so I can make sure that I don't feel that way. A lot of times it's an avoidance of a feeling, while it's also an avoidance of what could happen or what could go wrong and that worst case scenario thinking. This is something that I used to struggle with a lot, and I still from time to time can find myself caught up in like checking my calendar and making sure that I've planned things out properly. In the past, it used to look like constantly, again, checking my calendar and making sure how many appointments I had and then double checking it and going back again, even though I knew what was on my planner and what was ahead, but I wanted to make sure that I felt prepared. And so this kind of checking and planning gave me that sense, and oftentimes a false sense of more control and reassurance. So this can be one surprising sign that you are struggling with high functioning anxiety. Sign number 2 is researching a lot, like doing a lot of research. Let's say before you want to buy something new, you want to make sure that you're looking at all the reviews and getting the best of the best. Or maybe it is if you are starting a new exercise plan or diet or lifestyle change and you want to do all the research that you can to get all the information. Maybe it is you're doing a presentation or a paper or a project and you want to make sure that you're getting and doing all the research that you possibly can so that it's the best possible. Now, this can come from a place of perfectionism, of wanting things to be perfect and wanting to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And, there's nothing wrong with doing research. Of course, it can be really helpful and important. But when it goes into the place of, doing this research is stopping you from getting started, or it comes from a place of fear of like, well, what if I fail if I don't do all the research for this presentation? Or what if I buy the wrong product? Or what if I start this lifestyle change and do it the wrong way? What if I'm not doing the keto or vegan diet in the right way? Whatever it is, if it's coming from that place of fear and you're doing this research because you are afraid of what could go wrong, then that can be a sign of high functioning anxiety. And especially if it gets in the way, like I said before, of you taking action on that step. So if you find yourself struggling with this tendency or desire to want to do tons of research, recognize it, notice when it comes up, and just ask yourself, am I doing this because this is really necessary for me to do this level of research, or am I maybe going above and beyond and trying to prevent or avoid something bad from happening that I might not necessarily have control over? I hope that distinction makes sense. And just like anything, there is a spectrum that, it's not good or bad to plan a lot or to do a lot of research, but it can depend on what is the root of those behaviors and those signs and symptoms as they relate to high functioning anxiety. So sign number 3 is assuming that others are judging you. So when you struggle with high functioning anxiety, you tend to have a harsh inner critic. So you tend to be really hard on yourself and beat yourself up if you don't do things properly, and oftentimes tend to focus on the negative of like, what are you not doing? And ignoring the things that you're doing well. And this can then translate into projecting that onto others. So because you're viewing yourself through a negative light, then you are going to assume that other people are judging you and viewing you in the same way. And this can then result in you feeling less confident and reinforce that criticism that you put upon yourself. It might result in behaviors where you are not putting yourself out there, or you are reading other people's minds and making assumptions and drawing conclusions about conversations that you had, or overanalyzing text messages or emails because you're coming from that place of assuming that other people are judging you harshly. So I have an entire list that I created of these 7 signs, along with other signs of high functioning anxiety, that you can download by going to calmlycoping.com/list, and you will get the entire list, like I said, of these 7 signs that I'm sharing in this episode, along with other signs of high functioning anxiety, so you can get a sense of where you fall and what of these signs you're struggling with. And so then you can identify how you can take action to start coping with and changing these signs so you can feel calmer from within. Again, you can get that by going to calmlycoping.com/list. So sign number 4 that you might have high functioning anxiety is biting your nails or fidgeting in some other way. So I'm definitely guilty of this. If you did a close-up of my nails, they do not look the prettiest because I tend to get in that place of struggling with biting my nails, especially when I'm feeling stressed out. Biting your nails can be a way of relieving stress and tension that builds up when you're feeling anxious. And other signs of fidgeting can be like shaking your leg, or like crossing your legs over each other, or biting your cuticles or picking at your skin in any other way. There's a lot of different signs of fidgeting that can show up that can be an external display of how you might be feeling on the inside. And it's a place for that nervous energy to go when you aren't having or creating an outlet for it in another way. Sign number 5 that you might be struggling with high functioning anxiety is if you're seeking reassurance from others. So this can be a sign of anxiety in general, and can often come from the desire to find some sort of certainty, or to decrease the overthinking and the what ifs. Maybe you're seeking reassurance that like, am I making the right decision? And you want to make sure, like, what do you think? Like, whether it's from a partner, whether it's from a friend or a colleague or a parent, it's that desire to get validation that, all right, I'm making the right choice, or I shouldn't be worried about this, right? So any signs that you're seeking reassurance from others can be a sign of high functioning anxiety, because you are looking for an external way to calm that anxiety and that uncertainty from within. And oftentimes getting that reassurance can help you in the moment to decrease some of those what ifs or the overthinking, because you're getting it from an objective or distant third party who can give you their perspective on things. The problem with seeking reassurance is if it becomes something that you rely upon to decrease your anxiety, and you're constantly asking another person or your partner or significant other to give you that reassurance or validation that like, okay, I shouldn't be worried about this, or okay, I'm making the right decision, then that takes the power away from you to make those decisions yourself and to decrease your anxiety on your own. So seeking reassurance in and of itself, like all of these signs, is not a bad thing, but it's when you rely upon it and when it gets into the level of hurting you more than helping you because you're not accessing your own internal resources to cope with the stress and anxiety that might come up for you. Sign number 5 is kind of similar to the seeking reassurance from others, but it is difficulty with making decisions. So because of your overthinking and your fear of making the wrong choice, it might be difficult for you to make decisions, even down to the smallest decisions, like what do you want to eat at a restaurant? I know this definitely used to be me, and it used to feel like it was the biggest decision in the world and I couldn't make the wrong decision. And this can come from a place, again, of that fear of what if I make the wrong choice and, I don't want to feel this way after I make this choice, or the uncertainty that comes up when it comes to making decisions. Like these other traits, it's not a terrible quality to have. And at the same time, it can be frustrating in the long run. And it can prevent you from really looking within yourself and trusting yourself to make decisions. So if this is something that you're struggling with, I suggest that you start small and make it a point to make these small decisions and start to listen to and trust yourself more and commit. So even if it's, like I said before, making a decision for what you want to eat for dinner or what you want to watch on TV, making those small decisions can help you to practice building that muscle of listening to and trusting yourself and committing to making decisions. And it's going to make it easier to then make bigger decisions in the long run. And sign number 7, that is a surprising sign of high functioning anxiety, is having a rigid routine or schedule. And this can relate to planning. So because you're mentally rehearsing things and wanting to know what to expect in your mind, then this can result in some rigidity of what your routine is. So maybe this is like your morning routine or evening routine, or the way that you have to have your schedule play out during the day. Or if you plan things in advance, then it needs to happen that way. Otherwise, you're going to be completely thrown off. You might feel like things need to go a certain way, and then when they don't, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to respond because in your mind you had been so preparing for what was going to happen that then when things go in a different direction, your mind can still be stuck in that place of, well, things should have gone this way. It should have happened in this way. I need to have this routine, otherwise my day isn't going to be good. And so these rigid beliefs and behaviors can then make it difficult to adjust when things don't go that way. And so that difference between rigidity and flexibility is important to recognize in this situation. When you're rigid, you get stuck in that place of it has to be this way. And then if things don't go this way, there's the should have or could have or the what ifs. And when you're in this place, and if you find yourself in this place, it can help to practice some flexibility and to kind of practice going with the flow more. And this can be, again, something that you can focus on doing gradually, that if you find yourself in this place of mentally stuck in, this is the way that things are supposed to be, I need to have this routine, how can you adjust a little and maybe accept where the day has taken you or where things have gone, and recognize maybe those uncomfortable emotions that might be coming up when that happens. Like I said before, that rigidity can result in frustration and irritability. And so that can be another sign that comes from that place of high functioning anxiety. So your action tip, if you identify with any of these signs that I listed, and again, you can access them by going to calmlycoping.com/list to get the full written down list of these signs, I want you to reflect upon how these signs are influencing you. Now, like I've said multiple times, I'm not trying to vilify any of these behaviors, but just to bring awareness to how your behaviors can sometimes be a consequence of fear and anxiety. So I want you to identify 1 to 2 of these behaviors to reflect upon over the next week and focus on how they influence you. What does it feel like for you when you notice this sign? What's going on emotionally? What kind of thoughts are you having? And once you've done that and brought awareness to it, then seeing if there's any small baby steps you can make to change and go towards the other direction. And as a bonus, I have an exciting 3-part series coming next week. It's a free series that's going to be coming out on my podcast and on YouTube, depending on where you choose to watch or listen. It is on how you can be calm and ambitious. So how you can have these high achieving and ambitious traits on the outside and feel calm and grounded from within. So I'm going to walk you through the 3 parts of the series. Part 1 is all about how to declutter your mind and stop overthinking. Part 2 is 7 techniques to feel calm and grounded. Part 3 is how to achieve balance as a high achiever. This will be a 3-part video and podcast series along with exercises for you to do along with it. And if you want to be notified when this series begins, then you can sign up for my mailing list by signing up for that list that I talked about before by going to calmlycoping.com/list, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment below letting me know which of these signs resonated most with you. While you wait for next week's episode, I have other episodes about decreasing anxiety, adopting a healthy mindset, and managing your time and energy. So make sure you check out these episodes here. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and until next time, be calm.